Hey people, this is Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon and the Body Scientist. I am starting this video over. I had started this video on my IG Live, which is where I'm recording it, and then posting it on my YouTube. I had an idiot that I had to block and curse out real quick. You know, my dad is always telling me not to argue with fools, number one, and he's always telling me not to argue with crazy men because, I don't know, they could be nuts and hurt me, but I don't give a fuck. Some dudes deserve to get cursed the fuck out. Some dudes deserve to get elbowed in the motherfucking neck. Some dudes deserve to get kicked in the chest. And I'm not the one. I'm not here for it. So I will curse your motherfucking ass out before I block you. Okay, so back to the conversation from the beginning. So as a lot of you know me, you know that I'm also known as the body scientist because I study the body. I study the male body, the female body, I study bodies. I have dedicated my life to learning all the things that will take our bodies to the highest level. And sexuality and sexual actions are a part of that. And so today we're going to talk about sex. And I'm a sacred sexual educator. Sacred sexuality, a lot of people ask me what is that. Well, a lot of you have heard of Tantra. Tantra is one sacred sexual practice. I don't call myself a tantrika because I study a lot of things. I don't subscribe to one thing. And Tantra is not the bulk of where my knowledge comes from. I started off first studying Taoism, which comes from ancient Chinese people. And they spent thousands of years studying the effects of sexual actions and its effect on our overall health and spirituality. And the Taoists were really focused on cultivating sexual energy for spiritual immortality, to become spiritually immortal. We can't be physically immortal, but spiritually we can. I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I study things from Africa, Native Americans, Asia. Everybody has sacred sexual practices, okay? And so the root of the sacred sexual practices, especially as it pertains to the Taoist, for men, is about semen retention. And I see a lot of people talking about that, and over the years I used to teach it a lot, and I still can teach it, but over the years I've had differing opinions about this, and it's something that I didn't really speak about for a number of reasons, but today I'm going to speak about that. So okay, so the basic thing is that women, we have yin bodies. Even though some women have more yin energy, so you might have a woman that has like 90% yang energy and very little yin energy. But the fact that we are women and the fact that we're in a female body with female genitalia, our bodies are naturally yin because our genitalia is internal. So women are just already internal whether we want to be or not, right? When we orgasm, it's all internal. So in order for us to balance our yin with yang, we have to release more, okay? We have to release more. And you see a lot of ancient art with women sitting with their legs wide open. That's our birthing stance. So we have to release more. And what can drain a woman's life force and chi are menstrual cycles and childbirth. So that doesn't mean that a woman should never have a menstrual cycle, which I've seen some women talking about that, and a lot of times when they do talk about that, they come from the vegan community. And as a woman, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, it's a sign that you're not healthy. So that's never a good thing. But a woman's menstrual cycle should not be super long and heavy and horrible cramps, and that is very draining of your life force, and that's not normal or healthy, right? And childbirth, again, doesn't mean a woman should never have a child, have a baby. Of course not. Our human race would be extinct. But what it does mean is that, you know, if a woman had a baby every year, like 1, 2, 3 every year, that would drain her life force. It would drain her chi. So traditional people, they would put like 3 years, at least 3 years in between having babies, right? So having childbirth and menstrual cycles drain a woman's chi, and for men, it's ejaculation. And that doesn't mean that a man should never ejaculate. So a lot of the people who talk about semen retention, I've met men who, okay, so Mantak Chia, some of you may have heard of him. He's a Thai man that is known for teaching these things. And I've heard people tell me, oh, he hasn't ejaculated in 10 years or 15 years. I've met men that tell me they haven't ejaculated in years. And honestly, not only do I don't believe that that's actually the healthiest thing for men. And there are various reasons, but also, as a woman, a lot of the Taoist stuff is told from a male's perspective. But there is also a female lineage of Taoist practitioners. And the thing is that when we orgasm, when women orgasm, when men orgasm, we all release a beneficial essence, okay? Our sexual fluids are sacred, they're healing, they have a lot of healing properties in them. And semen is not just for pregnancy and conception. Sex is not just for conception. So that's a myth. If we were just meant to have sex to conceive, then we would have women would have these short time periods and we were in heat. That's how it is for so many species. The woman might be in heat one day out the month or a specific time. She's not always having sex. With humans, we are in heat. Women are in heat their entire cycle. Some are still in heat on their periods. I'm not, but a lot of women are really horny then too. And so sex and sexual energy and moving that energy, orgasmic energy, is extremely important for our health, our sanity, our hormones, our mental health, all of that. Now, I'm going to talk, there are many different things in semen that is very healing to women, right? Or just healing in period, because there could be men who have sex with men, and I'm not here to discriminate against that. So I'm sure it has healing properties for you too. But right now I'm going to talk about it for women. And the vaginal canal, our vaginal canal is very absorbent. It is, all of our skin is absorbent. That's why you always hear me say that if you can't eat something, it shouldn't be in your skin. And our skin is extremely absorbent, even more than our digestive tract. So stuff can get into our bloodstream much easier through putting it on our skin than even from ingesting it, okay? And so, so the vaginal canal is just is even more absorbent than our regular skin on our body. And so it's just looking to absorb. Okay, so now when we talk about chi and life force and what's in semen, okay? So I have this long list of things. So please excuse me as I look down and look back up and continue. So semen contains spermidine, okay? Spermidine has been found to increase the lifespan. Spermidine has also been shown to reduce the amount of aging in yeast, flies, worms, and human immune cells by inducing autophagy. And what autophagy is it's in times of stress. Let me say how with this. In times of stress, it increases to protect us. And basically, it's eating up things. It's your body's automatically eating up toxic stuff. Now, see, somebody said, yeah, I'm talking about this next to the playground. Yeah, exactly. But those kids wouldn't be here either if it wasn't for semen. We all come from sex. All of us are here because our parents had sex. And so we have semen and other things to thank for that. Plus, those kids are not paying attention to me. Okay, so immune cells, autophagy is basically, it starts to protect us and eat up toxic things that could hurt us, right? And so, and actually you can find spermidine in cheddar cheese. You can find it in semen, and you can find it in 1-year-old cheddar cheese. There's very high concentration of spermidine, and again, it helps our immune system, and it helps us to not age so quickly, and it helps our lifespan. Then semen also contains many proteins, and with potent antimicrobial activity against bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Okay, so many important proteins in semen. Okay, there's more in semen. The sperm is just like a small percentage of what's in semen. It also contains nerve growth factor, also known as NGF, nerve growth factor. Nerve growth factor is important for the growth, maintenance, and survival of neurons. Okay, so I think all of you know what neurons are in our brain. We need them, including the axons. Okay, so it helps. Nerve growth factor is important in the growth, maintenance, and survival of neurons, including the axons, which is the part where the electrical signals pass. It also promotes myelin repair. which is the coating around the axons. Okay, so nerve growth factor, which is high in semen, it affects our brain, and it helps to protect our brain. It helps to protect the electrical signals that are being sent in our brain, and it helps to preserve our neurons and our myelin and our axons. Okay. There was a woman scientist, Rita Levi Modellini, won a Nobel Prize for discovering nerve growth factor, and she used nerve growth factor eye drops to increase her life and her health. Okay, NGF, nerve growth factor, is abundant in semen. Recent studies have shown that it induces ovulation in some mammals. So semen can also play a role in women ovulating. Okay, I'm sure we ovulate without it, but it also plays a role in that as well. Also, stress and anxiety decreases NGF. So when we're stressed and we have anxiety, it decreases NGF, which means that NGF can help keep you stress-free. Okay. And low NGF levels are found in arteriosclerosis, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome, when you see people, I see it a lot in Chicago. In Chicago, I see like morbidly obese people. Like when you see people who are fat, like pun, that type of obesity does not come from, oh, this person just ate too much. That's not what that comes from. When you see sickly, morbid obesity, people look like they're about to explode, like Precious. They have some serious metabolic issues. A lot of times, those people don't even eat that much. You'll see people who are skinny as hell who eat a lot more. So they have serious metabolic issues, and I talk about that in some of my metabolism videos. I won't get into that. But basically, NGF is an anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, and it may be helpful for a variety of conditions, including depression, which I'm sure it does. Based on the things that I've said before that it does, it makes sense that it would help with depression, multiple sclerosis, and schizophrenia, all brain conditions, right? And we already talked about how nerve growth factor helps with the brain, and spermidine helps with the brain, right? Also, semen is high in testosterone. And testosterone increases the sex drive in men and women. Another way to increase testosterone is lifting weights. This is why I teach in my sensual strength training and my Kundalini strength training. My sensual strength training class is for women. My Kundalini strength training is for men. But an essential part of that is lifting weights, because when you lift weights, male or female, it increases your testosterone, especially when it's your lower body, because our largest, most powerful muscles in our body are in our lower extremities. So when we work our lower bodies, it really increases our testosterone in a man or a woman. But it's also abundant in semen. And for women, you see a lot of women, postmenopausal women, using testosterone creams, using estrogen creams, because they're having issues with vaginal atrophy. They're having issues with being able to feel. And so there are women who are taking testosterone cream, but you could just get it from a shot, naturally, from your lover. If you have that. Some women don't, but if you do, he can give it to you, right? And the testosterone that's in semen is easily absorbed through the vaginal wall and from ingesting orally. So somebody asked me about women swallowing semen. Is that good for women? Yeah, it has been shown to be good for women. It has been shown even when women are pregnant, ingesting the semen of their partner that they're pregnant by can help with preeclampsia and stuff and other things pregnancy related. One of my best friends, I remember the first time I heard that was from one of my childhood best friends who is a labor and delivery nurse out in California. And she told me that, and there are many studies that have shown that to be true. Also, semen is high in oxytocin, which is anti-aging, has anti-anxiety, which to me, anything that's anti-anxiety is also anti-aging, because the more anxiety you have, the quicker you age. And it helps with wound healing, oxytocin. Now we all the women know about oxytocin and labor and stuff like that, childbirth. Oxytocin is a big one. Progesterone, which is also has anti-anxiety properties. FSH and LH, follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. It also has TRH, which is an anti-inflammatory and mood enhancer. Cortisol, which can reduce inflammation and it's a mood enhancer. And it can be, it reduces inflammation and a mood enhancer. And then it also has a whole bunch of other stuff in it, right? Now, so this can be, some of the properties can get lost when ingesting orally, because when you ingest orally, then it has to go through your digestive tract and deal with all your digestive juices and the hydrochloric acids in your stomach. So some properties might be lost through ingestion orally, but our mouth and our vaginas are both openings of our body, and they're very much related. In labor, a woman has to relax her jaw. Keeping her jaw tense also causes her to tense up her pelvic floor and her vaginal walls, which makes birth really difficult. Women who work with eggs will notice that when they sneeze or cough or laugh, sometimes they'll push their egg out. So our mouth and our vaginas are related. The openings of our body. Even when it comes to herbs. Herbs that work in our digestive tract also work on our reproductive tracts. Okay, so our reproductive system and our digestive system are very much interrelated, and our mouths and our vaginas are very much interrelated openings of our body. This is also the reason why a lot of women get turned on from oral sex, because it also can stimulate the vagina. And there's a book called, let me see. Okay, so yes, thank you for asking that question. That's one thing I wanted to talk about the benefits of men keeping it inside of them. Okay, so this is where we have the conflict, because semen retention is based off of the ideology that men don't want to throw all those good properties out. And those men want to keep that inside of them so that they can be renourished with it and it can go up to their brain. It's thought by the Taoists that every time a man ejaculate, they lose some cerebral spinal fluid, and that there's a connection between the brain and the ejaculate fluid. But there's also a lot of science that has shown that sperm from, when sperm is inside of a woman, it affects our brain, okay? There's lots of studies that shows it affects our brain. So losing too much of it can affect a man's brain, make him go crazy. And maybe not getting enough of it for a woman could make her go crazy, especially if she becomes addicted to it, which is a documented thing. And it's shown that this is the reason why women who break up have breakups. They're in a long-term relationship and they have a breakup. A lot of them have a hard time because they no longer have that. And it can be addictive. It can definitely be addictive. And, I'm not too much into, I talk about sex, I'm not too much into talking about my personal life too much, but I can definitely attest to the fact that I know that to be true, okay? And so now you have a conflict if you're telling, hey girlie, now you have a conflict if men are saying, the Taoists are telling men, don't ejaculate, but the women are like, damn, I need that shit, because it helps the woman. The female Taoists, the white tigress lineage, they were trying to absorb as much. Oh, a rabbit. 2 rabbits just ran past me. See, you can't see that. I see rabbits all the time in my neighborhood in Chicago. Sitting on the beach, rabbits are running by. What do rabbits do? Just have a lot of sex, right? So, anyhow, the women would use semen to help them to not age as quickly, and they did a lot with it. There's a book called The Sexual Teachings of the White Tigress. I read this book like probably 10 years ago. And in this book, they're talking about the white tigress lineage, which went underground because every single culture in every single country was matriarchal at one point. And under matriarchy, there was no suppression of men, there was no suppression of sexuality, there was no suppression of women. And sexuality was it was rooted in spiritual practices and health practices, and that was acknowledged. But every single country and every single place became patriarchal at some point, and it was not always because of the white man. It wasn't. And in China, it was not. I'm not an expert on Chinese history, so I don't exactly remember what happened, but it wasn't because of the white man. I know that. But they did have a patriarchal shift where a lot of the female stuff had to go underground. So a lot of this knowledge had to go underground. So when you look up when you look up a lot of Taoist stuff, you just find out about the men. But these white tigresses, what they did was they mastered the art of seduction. And there's so much I learned in that book, but they mastered the art of seduction. They knew that men were visual. So what these women would do, and they were actually more focused on absorbing semen orally. They weren't really into having sex so much, because there's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get too much into that. They were not focused on vaginal sex so much, but in that book they got very scientific about, putting it on the face. Like, they really focused on fellatio, because they talked about how it strengthens the muscles in a woman's face as well, and it prevents her from aging so quickly. So the exercising the muscles in the face, and then they would put the semen on their face because it is good for skin. I'm not about that life, so that's one thing that I don't do. But for the woman who likes semen on their face, like, I remember it made me look at porn differently, because before I would feel like it was really disrespectful every time I saw a man ejaculate a woman's face in a porn. I'm like, but then I found out that there's women who love that. I found that out from just talking to women, but I saw it differently when I learned about the healing properties of it. And so these white tigresses, they didn't necessarily have a conversation with men about what they were doing, but they wanted to seduce these men so much because they wanted them to ejaculate as much as possible so they could absorb his life force. They could absorb his chi, and it could help them. And so, and they had rules about how they did that, and they went after men who were really strong and really healthy. So it wasn't just anybody. And they really tried to go after the men, the monks who were like up there praying on the hill, up there by themselves, hadn't ejaculated in years. That's why they mastered the art of seduction, because they were like, we're going to break these men down. And we're going to break down these men who are so strong. And so for that, it was about how they wore their hair. How they positioned their body when they performed oral sex, just to excite him, give him the visual, everything. And that's what they were up to. So the woman had to be sneaky, because the men were not trying to let it go. And so then it becomes a conflict between what the man needs and what the woman needs. And when I really started to learn a lot of this stuff, I was definitely teaching men about ejaculation control. And I remember men that I was working with at the time telling me that they had a hard time because the woman that they were in a relationship with would get pissed off when they didn't come. And back then, I totally didn't care. Like, I didn't care if a man came or not. Like, there were so many men who would tell me that women would get upset, or the woman would feel like something was wrong with her. And it was funny, because I never felt like anything was wrong with me if a man didn't come during sex. I just felt like, oh, he must be really strong. Like, he's a really strong man. And a lot of men talk about how it's important to be able to go forever. But, not every woman wants that. Some women are good. There's times that I've been having sex and I've had 2-3 orgasms. I'm good. I just want to lay down and go to sleep. But he may not. He may still have the energy to keep going, and I may not. So I'm not somebody that takes 2 hours to have an orgasm. I know a lot of women have orgasmic issues. I've never been that person. I can have an orgasm in 5 minutes. Like, I can give myself an orgasm in 30 seconds. So I don't have those issues. So I don't need a man to have to go for 4 hours. That's not necessary. So it varies. But the men, even in the male sacred sexual practice, and I see this a lot in dances of the African diaspora, a lot of the dances that I study, where the women are the wildest. I see the women mess with the drummers. Like, I've seen women go put their butt in the drummer's face while he's drumming, or they go put their breasts in the drum. They do stuff to try to distract him and try to throw him off. But all the drummers, all the high-level drummers, they don't get distracted by that. They're so able to play. I personally could not keep playing if a woman did that. I would be distracted. I would mess up. The male practices are about being able to deal with that level of stimulus and not just let it go. It's not about avoiding it. It's not about saying, oh, let me not look at this. Because what that does is people who are so suppressed and, they never have been touched and they've never been around a woman, what happens with them is when they're around a woman who they find really attractive, they just lose it. Like, a woman could touch their knee and they come on themselves. Like, you don't want to be like that. The man is working on being able to see and feel and look at all the things that stimulate him, but control it and not let it go. And so the woman, and I always say every man is breakable. I know a lot of men that say, oh, I'm not easy, I'm not, but every man is breakable. Some men are harder than others. But the men that are really hard to break are the ones that have been training to be unbreakable. And then there are the women who train to break you. So you always have that competition, right? And so for me, like, I just started focusing on what I needed. And I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about semen retention all the time. Because some people take it too far. You know, there are men who like, I've seen men who are like, oh, I never ejaculate. And honestly, a woman, I don't know like how different women feel. But I know that you feel an energy from it. You know, like for me, just like with a woman, you know, like if I go down on a woman, whenever a woman orgasms, whenever I give a woman an orgasm, I feel that energy. Like it's super energizing. It's like more energizing than caffeine. Like the whole next day, I'm like fucking hyped up and excited and shit. I feel that same thing when I feel a man ejaculate. When I feel that same feeling. It's full of energy, life force, and chi, right? And so the one thing I will say about this conflict and like find this happy medium is that for men, because men do drain their life force through ejaculation, it's not that you never want to ejaculate, but you just don't want to do it all the time or too often. And too often, what too often is, depends on the man. It depends on his current health state, his ability to get erections. Like if a man has erection problems already and a bunch of health problems, then he really needs to conserve even more. But if he's a healthy man, doesn't have those issues, the thing and the goal is during sex to bring her to orgasm at least twice before you orgasm, because in that way you've absorbed her beneficial essence before you ejaculate. You have absorbed her beneficial essence before you release yours, right? And threw yours out there. So now you've gained before you lose. If you just ejaculate, you know, you have sex with a woman and you just ejaculate and you don't bring her to orgasm, and that happens all the time, then you're not gaining any life force. You're just losing, you're throwing it out, but you're not gaining. And then if you're ejaculating through masturbation, you're getting nothing. Like what I really, I mean, it sucks to hear this, but for men, I really suggest that you don't ejaculate that much when you orgasm. You can orgasm without ejaculating. It sucks and it's no fun. That's why the female practices are more, you know, fun, because for us, when we work with eggs and do stuff like that, it's arousing, it makes us horny, and if we want to have an orgasm right then while we're doing it, it's great. We don't have to worry about it. The more orgasms we have, the better. But for men, you guys really have to work on not doing that. So you can, you know, you're masturbating, you would want to work on not jerking off so hard, because when men do that, it desensitizes you. You don't want to do that. And then bringing yourself close to orgasm and focusing on breathing. Or someone's talking about the microcosmic orbit. Yes, I teach the microcosmic orbit in all my classes. I teach it to women and I teach it to men. The microcosmic orbit is very important. Now, I do teach that. What was I gonna say? That yeah. So if a man just says, okay, when I masturbate, I'm not gonna ejaculate. I mean, maybe sometimes he might not be able to help it, but as much as possible, he doesn't ejaculate. He saves that for sex, and he saves it for after he's given that woman a few orgasms and absorbed her essence. And so that way, he's not just throwing away his life force. But if a man is ejaculating every day, I mean, he's like jerking off every day and ejaculating. And then when he does have sex, he comes so quick, or he comes before she does. That is how a man really drains his life force. That's when ejaculation becomes like, okay, there's too much. You really need to consciously work on ejaculation control. But, you know, men can feed a woman, and it really helps us not be depressed. It really helps our mental health. And so there's definitely a beneficial essence that we absorb from it. So I personally would not be interested in a man who told me, oh, I haven't come in 5 years. That to me sounds whack and lame, and I'm not interested in that. Even though I could think of it like, oh, that's a challenge. Let me see if I can break him down. Because she should be strong, but just not interested. Now I'm getting a little bit cold out here. Whew, getting a little chilly. The sun went down. So I think that I said all I needed to say. Somebody asked me about the book. It's called The Sexual Teachings of the White Tigress. And I'm very much familiar with Montauk Chia's work. I think, I respect it. But I don't, as I told you, I study things from all over the world. And based on the sum total of everything that I've studied, I'm not convinced that Montauk Chia is the be-all, end-all about the stuff, and I don't agree with everything that he teaches and says. It doesn't hurt to check out some of his work, though. Yeah, the microcosmic orbit is important for men and women. And I think I said everything I need to say. I'm trying to think. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? The main point, I'm about to start shivering. The main point is that semen has lots of healing health properties that goes beyond reproduction, that is really good for women, really good for our brain, really good for our immune systems, and is one of the keys to anti-aging. Welcome to good old Chicago weather. Well, I've heard that it's like this in New York too right now. It's a little chilly, and it's supposed to get warmer. But yeah, so for me, sacred sexuality is a huge part of my spirituality and my health practices. I've been studying this stuff for, at least 14 years now. And I've always been focused on getting better with age and aging gracefully. So the foods that I eat, the exercises that I do, what I do sexually, all of it is a part of it. And sex and sexuality, our sexual practices and stuff does affect our overall health, our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health. And spirituality and sexuality are the same continuum. So I'm going to say one last thing to the person who said there's 94 degrees in Los Angeles, but I just have to say something to the California people, because California people, someone said they thought that you can't be outside of Chicago because of gangs. I live on the north side of Chicago. I live way north, all the way at the tip. It's not violent over here. Chicago is a beautiful city. I try to show that a lot in my videos and photos, that Chicago is literally one of the most beautiful cities I've ever seen. And there's bad parts of Chicago, but this is a huge city. It's the third biggest city. Chicago, by square miles, is only like New York City. New York City is only like 60 square miles bigger than Chicago. New York is huge. So you have this huge landmass. So where the violence is at is nowhere near me, okay? And so Chicago, the full story and the true story about Chicago is not told, because the violence is real, but it's not all that's here. There's a lot of the city where it's not like that. But going back to California, is that California people love to talk shit and brag about how they have the best weather, and I totally disagree with that. Because every time I'm in California, I'm cold. California people say it doesn't get cold. The Southern California goes from August to November in the same day. It'll be 95 degrees and hot as fuck. Then you go inside, you're like burning up, you go eat, you come outside and it's freezing. And now you need to put on fucking a hoodie, a coat, pants, sweatpants and sneakers because it's freezing outside. Southern California, I hate that shit. That shit is bad for my spirit. I'm like, if it's gonna be November, let it be November. Then I'm in the mind state of November. I'm dressing like it's November. But don't go from 95 degrees to 55 degrees in the same day in an hour. I have so many experiences with that in California. I remember being in Coachella last year for my friend's wedding, and I was hot as fuck. Like, it was so goddamn hot outside. I got in the car, left her wedding, drove 2 hours, got out the car to get some food, and I was so fucking cold that it made me mad. You know what I'm saying? So I hate California weather, and I hate the fact that there's no humidity. You need humidity. That lack of humidity is whack. And then the Bay Area. Let's not talk about how cold it is in the Bay Area. It's probably 50 degrees in San Francisco and Oakland right now. I would rather have a real winter. I would rather have a real summer and a winter than to have the weather that's in the Bay Area where it's fucking just like 50 degrees all year round and it's cold in the summer. And I would rather have seasons, that 4 seasons, than have 2 seasons in one day. They're so drastic. So to the California people who love to talk shit about how it's hot in California, it'll probably be cold tonight. I don't like California weather. I prefer East Coast weather. I prefer Florida weather because it's more tropical. You have the humidity. The humidity is so good for your skin. I hate the desert. The desert to me is hideous. It's dry, it's hideous, and it's like you need water for life. How does it never rain? How does it never rain? That's not a good thing to me. Because every place I've been that's lush, it rains a lot. Costa Rica is one of the most biodiverse countries in this world, and it rains. It's the rainforest. It rains like the world's coming to an end, but you have so many different species of plants and flowers and insects. Southern California is so fake. They plant these palm trees. Palm trees don't belong in the desert. And all this stuff that's there, but it never rains. Like palm trees, flowers, greenery, you need rain for that. So, but California people love to talk shit when nobody's asking them. Every time somebody says that they're cold, California people have something to say. And it's like, dude, every time I have been to California, I have been cold. And people in California do not turn on the heat. So stop with acting like you guys have the best weather, because you don't. I prefer Louisiana weather and Florida weather where there's some humidity. It gives my skin some glow to it. I'm not a fan of the desert. Not a fan of California weather. And I'm sure it'll be cold in California in 2 hours when the temperature drops. But enough of that. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. Follow me on YouTube and have a great day. Bye.